Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Everybody, it's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Man, it's been a television week. Talked to Mark Bernardin earlier this week about Star Trek Picard. Talked to Rodney Barnes earlier and talked about the HBO Max series Winning Time, all about the LA Lakers. And now our thoughts turn to Archer and Kevin Mellon.
Yeah,
good to see you, Kev.
Happy to be here, and that's a hell of a lead up to me. So I hope they prepped you for how amazing this talk is going to be.
Absolutely, man. Well, and also we're going to talk about your music as well.
Yeah,
because I'm glad you're dipping into that, and we're going to talk about not only Archer, but we're going to talk about Hitmonkey as well.
Yeah.
So very cool. Now is Hitmonkey's on Hulu?
Yeah, it's on Hulu right now. It came out in November. It's available worldwide as of the end of January. So no matter most countries should have it. It's on Hulu in America, and it's on Disney Plus or Star, whatever version of that network you get overseas, non-American regions, I guess. So yeah, and it's 10 episodes of vengeance and family and brotherhood and comedy. I refer to Jason Sudeikis as the lead human character, and I refer to his voice here and what he does because he's doing very much. It's just Jason, but he's also kind of a dark Ted Lasso. It's
sure,
yeah, because Ted Lasso is so optimistic, and Bryce, the character he's voicing in this is, starts off the show very pessimistic, and it's interesting to follow his journey with Monkey throughout the course and watch him change. So,
and of course, this was based on the Dan Way, and I forget who the artist was.
I'm gonna mess up his last name, but it's like Dalibor, and I apologize.
Yeah. Shame on us for not remembering exactly, but there we go. Here's a little picture from an IndieWire article.
Yeah, a fun little section in episode 3. It takes place in a casino. I mean, because why not? But also there's a bit where the Monkey is kind of trapped for a second, and once he escapes, all hell breaks loose. It's a lot of fun.
That's excellent, man. Now, from an animation standpoint, what company is producing this?
Same company that makes Archer, Floyd County Productions. So, we had the chance to do a lot of varied things in the last few years, all of them very exciting, and I got to work on a couple of them. And for this, I had the fortune of being asked to be the art director on it. So I worked below past Word Balloon guest Neil Holman. He was the director producer on it. And then I was the art director, and I had a wonderful associate art director in Brenda Weed. And then we had a team, our internal team of animators and character designers and editors and composite artists working out of Atlanta, working to make this show as beautiful as we could. And I think we did a pretty dang good job.
That's cool. And then also beyond Jason, who else is in the voice cast?
Olivia Munn, George Takei, Ali Maki, who is delightful, Nashir Dalal, and Kaisuke, and I'm blanking on his last name right now. That's terrible of me. Let me find out, because he's wonderful to interact with on Twitter. I'll look it up real quick. But yeah, we've got a great cast. That I unfortunately, not fortunately, but unfortunately, Kaisuke Hawashi is who I'm thinking of there. Him and Noshi are great to talk to on Twitter. I highly recommend everybody follow them. They're also voice actors doing dozens of other things. So having them be a part of Hitmonkey has been a delight for me. And then hearing their voices in other things, like as I go fight. Oh, okay, that was you. Okay. But yeah, having them around, having them on the cast, and then getting to see what we're doing animation wise get married with their voices has been super exciting. So. And I totally didn't answer your question. I kind of meandered there.
No, I want to know more. I wanted to know more about the cast, but also,
the show creators, Josh Gordon and Will Speck, they are also, they did Office Christmas Party. They did Blades of Glory. They're doing that Lao Lao Crocodile that's been shooting. So they're good dudes, and they pitched Marvel. I don't know the exact process. They've kind of talked about it in some interviews, but they pitched Marvel on doing Hitmonkey a long time ago, and and then it kind of meandered throughout Marvel's kind of television avenues and until it came to Floyd County, and I just really loved their take on things. It was, they're very influenced by things, Japanese cinema, Old Boy, stuff like that, but also, modern stuff, more modern stuff like Tarantino. And I say more modern as if Old Boy didn't come out like, around the same time. But exactly.
He's old school now.
Yeah, he is old school now. Yeah, we're just that old now, John. Even stuff not directly, but even stuff like, Lady Snowblood going back into the 70s, back in the 70s stuff. A lot of those references, while also looking to, they're very focused on character, very focused on the heart of what was going on, the emotion of what was going on, a lot of attention to like, what are the eyes saying? They were very rightly so focused on Monkey looking a certain way and emoting a certain way at all times. And we really worked hard to get that and to convey that. And I like to think it did. I like to think it worked. So
very cool. And I know that Marvel has, Disney Plus, of course, as well as Hulu, and a lot of older Disney projects were running on Hulu, a lot of the adult stuff and everything. Do we know about a potential season 2? Too early to tell, or
too early to tell? Hopefully we find out soon, fingers crossed. Hopefully enough people watched it. I wish I had more insight on that. I really don't. So I would say to people watching this now, go watch it. If you don't like it, then at least to secure me and the rest of the team's jobs, let it play.
Just run exactly.
It's been nice though, because I've gotten so many people who maybe know me or whatever, or that maybe they like Archer, maybe they don't, or whatever, or maybe they've just known me for a long time, but they'll come out of the blue on like, Facebook especially, to say like, hey, I actually watched that Hitmonkey show. It's really good. Like they're kind of shocked that, a show about an assassin monkey is good, which it can be a bit of a premise to swallow for some people, but once people start watching it, especially, I think the hook of the first episode, is so good, and it puts the rest of the season in a place that you really do just want to keep watching. So
sure, absolutely. No, I was when they greenlit it and stuff, I thought that was terrific.
That was
Does Dan have any role in it? Dan Way?
No, other than us. The first episode really is the one that kind of looks directly at that source material. There's little bits throughout from the comic that we did try to pepper in as we could. I would say the pilot though is the one where there's some actual panels that we referenced. And then actual scenes and moments from the comic that really kind of play in. But other than that, I think I've maybe met Dan once in my time in comics in the last like decade or two. But other than that, we didn't have any interaction with him.
Well, yeah, and he's been really not very involved in comics the last 10 or 15, almost years or so anyway. So
yeah.
But I checked in with him a couple of years ago, and he's happy and doing well and everything. And
no, that's great.
I always thought had a great voice for the comics that he made. His runs. It's funny. It was Steve Dillon's birthday the other day, and I was thinking Steve and Dan's run on Deadpool. Being a really great run and everything. And
no, and it's always good to think about the ones we've lost, like Steve, because he was just such a giant personality and giant voice. I only got to meet him once, I think, at a New York show back in the the dinosaur ages, but and their voice together on that, especially you're talking about that Deadpool stuff, their voice together, I think Steve really did a good job kind of bringing a lot of the humor to that visually. So
absolutely. No, it's really a great run, no question. And Dalbor, the Taljak, the co-creator of Hitmonkey and stuff, they worked on I want to say Doc and Wolverine's son.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So
I'm one of those terrible Wolverine fans, in that I kind of try to forget that Doc never exists. So I apologize to Steve and Marvel for that.
It's cool, and I don't blame you.
No, it's just I'm not old school, like super hardcore about it, but it is one of those things where I'm like, I don't know about that guy.
Well, again, X-23 certainly had a much more happier.
I like that character.
Life.
I mean,
exactly. So, no, very cool, man. So Floyd County, how many years have you been with them now, Kev?
As of this month, it's been 10. And
Wow.
I mean 10 in Atlanta. I started part-time in 2011 working from Kansas City. So worked on a couple episodes of season 3. And then Neil, for whatever crazy reason, liked working with me, and so he asked me to move down to Atlanta, and so I did that spring, literally I think 10 years ago. Is it this? I think it's this month. So yeah. And and I always joke, and they kind of don't really know how to take it sometimes, but I joke like, well, it's television, like shit gets canceled all the time. So I was like, oh, I'll do this for like a year, and like if it keeps going, cool, and see what I want to do. And here I am 10 years later. So yeah. And
That's
I've had,
fantastic.
yeah, and
No,
it's been
and
sorry, go ahead.
no, go. You could finish your thought, and then I'll ask you.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's been a hell of a journey because I've gotten the chance to meet and work on meet so many different people and work on so many varied things that I never, excuse me, sorry, never would have gotten the chance to do anywhere else, and to get to become friends with the people I work with, and to, it's like so many of them that I just love so dearly, and just trust so much. It's been a huge, it's been just a huge highlight of my life, and Floyd County is just a great place for me to have called home for the last, decade or so. So, and it was nothing that I expected, Um,
Yeah.
so, and it's, getting to work on like one of my highlights of the last few years, aside from working on Hit Monkey, but like I got to like I think one of the funnier things we've been making is this show called Dicktown. It's also on Hulu, but it's with John Hodgman and David Reese. And I boarded most of season 1, and I just reading those scripts, hearing those reads come in from their voices and stuff like that, seeing those episodes shape up, and season 2 just dropped this spring. But we're getting to work on that kind of stuff, and then getting to work on stuff like Hit Monkey. Those are two polar opposite things. But the thing that I love about what Floyd does is comedy, dark comedy, and action. And there's those things, there's like a Venn diagram. Not everything has action, not everything has dark comedy, but you generally are kind of circling in those waters at all times,
Sure. And back before you joined and stuff, weren't they the
Mhm.
ones who did C Lab 2021 as well?
Yeah, yeah. And then the show that made me a fan of them, Matt and Adam, and then the crew that then eventually ended up making the first season of Archer, was Frisky Dingo. Because I knew of C Lab, and I watched a little bit of it in college, but I didn't latch onto it the way a lot of other people did until it was much later. But when Frisky Dingo's on, and I was watching that late nights on Adult Swim,
Yeah.
dying laughing, finding, and this is back I had no money, so I was torrenting, so I was finding torrents of it to watch, so I could watch it over and over again, because I couldn't wait for it to come back on,
Right.
it
would take months off at a time and everything. Yeah.
And
yeah.
I've seen those 2 seasons, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember now exactly, but I've seen those episodes of Frisky Dingo so many dozens of times. So when they announced Archer, it was a no-brainer for me, and then I was an instant fan from episode 1. And then to have social media exist at that time in a way that like I could make a joke about season 2 premiering on my birthday, and then Neil finding that tweet and saying, you're welcome, we did it for you, or something like that, which made me follow him. And then like 9 months later, he's hiring me to work part-time, so I mean, like, it's such a weird circuitous way of events have gone, but I mean, they couldn't have gone any other way, because I still, to this day, like, I'm right now working on season 13, and I still love the show. It's even stepping away for a couple seasons like was a good thing. It allowed me to watch the show as a fan again, which I love. But then now coming back into it, we've got, one of our producers is now the showrunner, Casey Willis, and then we've got Mark Ganick as the head writer, and the scripts that their team are turning out are it's just super fun stuff, and they're really kind of in a good way just exploring these characters that, even as someone who has been a fan of and then working on the show for so long, they're mining new territory, and I'm excited about that.
Let's talk about that, because I mean, this show has reinvented itself,
Mhm.
Archer, several different times.
I mean, for 6 seasons in a row.
Yeah, and it really, I think, is ballsy, but also terrific, because it opens new comedic doors. I mean, do you know the reason? I mean, you obviously were there when the revamps were happening and
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, like explain. That's something I've never
You
asked you
know,
before.
you know,
Why the shifts in gears? Because I mean, again, making fun of spy action
Mhm.
stuff made sense, and again, they like you said in that Venn diagram, they're still in the same territory, but also time travel and in space and all these different concepts and everything.
Yeah, it's interesting because I wish I had a more in-depth, like, well, here's the secret behind it. And I don't want to speak for Adam, the show creator and the guy who wrote all that stuff. I think it was just, from my limited vantage points on where he was at with things and all that, I think he just reached the place that all shows do, where he was just like, how do you keep doing the same thing? And so he wanted to keep things interesting. He wanted to, keep
Sure.
himself. I believe my suspicion is he wanted to keep himself entertained, and we were along for the ride, and FX was along for the ride, and honestly, like, so my first season full time was season 4, and that was kind of the last normal season up until now, because season 12 was a return to,
The classic
yeah,
format.
and so season 5 was the cocaine smuggling season, season, that's, so it's like to go from season 4 where we're still doing more classic quote unquote Archer stuff, but also to be a part of the expansion of the language of the show in doing a bit more action, doing a bit more kind of, because that was when we really started building the company's internal departments more. So it's like having a little bit more 3D and stuff like that, like not going crazy on it, because the show is what it is, and it's going to look a certain way, but just kind of like, taking that process that like 12 guys in a living room in East Atlanta came up with, and just being a part of that further refinement and making it even better.
Understood. Good question from Coffee Comics or Comics Coffee and Metal.
Hey, Don.
Would you helm an Archer graphic novel?
I would love to. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I can't actually draw in the Archer style, but I would love to be a part of that process. I know people have come to the company asking about it and all that, and I don't really know the ins and outs of what it would take to make that happen. But I know at least me, Neil, and Chad, and a couple other people who have worked on it, have always kind of thought it'd be a lot of fun
Yeah.
to have those kinds of stories that maybe you can't tell in a comic book, have those expanded moments, stuff like that. I think it'd be wonderful. And I'm not privy to those conversations, so maybe it's never say never, but I don't know that they're I don't know that they're interested in doing it. But if you want it, I definitely think it's something to yell at FX about and say, hey, we want this.
No, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be also, we have so many talented like illustrators and artists inside the studio. I think it would be a phenomenal way to show off those people and their skills in a way that maybe a television show, doesn't always highlight, like, because you could, I mean, I don't know about for Archer, but I think I always find it interesting with TV show adaptations and stuff, like what styles people choose to do that stuff in, and like when Jim Mafu did the Miami Vice comic, I was like, I was not expecting that. That's a hell of a choice, and I think it'd be interesting for shows like Archer, or like Rick and Morty books always look like Rick and Morty. I'd love to see somebody do a realistic take, like what would this look like with more realistic drawings,
or the way they have played around letting other animation companies
Yeah,
do their 10-minute shorts and
yeah,
things like that.
yeah.
No, I understand. Well, and so Kev, like, what is your role? Because you're right, your comic book art style is so different
Very much so, yeah.
than Archer's style and everything. So
Yeah.
are
So,
you on a computer? What are you doing? What's your role
yeah,
on the
we're
show?
drawing digitally. I've been almost full digital even before I got started working at the studio. I was really kind of, the last gasp of me working on paper was doing I think American Muscle with Steve Niles at Image back in the day, and then a little bit of my books, or probably half my book, Suicide Sisters. But then I've been, even the stuff I've done comic wise since then has been all digital, and my style is very different from the Archer style. But because and to answer your question, what I do on Archer is I was storyboard artist for a long time, then was storyboard artist slash storyboard director. Then I moved over to other projects, and then art directing on Hitmonkey, and then now
Yes.
I'm back on Archer. I'm just right now just living as it's a nice life as just a regular storyboard artist. I actually report to someone who I helped hire, so it's not, it's great,
Oh,
and that's
fun.
been great. Like, it's super fun, because the nice thing about the studio is it allows for that kind of circular momentum. It's like they're nice, and I've been able to watch her move into, like, get her bearing, and to say, to go say to myself, but also to her, like, come to me if you need something, but it's your show. I'm here to help you, So, but yeah, that's what I'm doing now. Like, and storyboards vary from place to place. I can't really speak on how a lot of other places do it, but we don't tend to board in the style of the show. We board in the tone of the show. We board in the feel of the show. So realistic human proportions, normal perspective rules, and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay. And your circular movement within the company
Yeah.
reminds me of Tad Stones, who created Darkwing Duck
Right.
and just wrapped up his long career in animation and was part of Bob's Burgers
Hmm. Hmm.
and was just one of the guys at Bob's Burgers,
Yeah.
and obviously
Yeah.
a guy that had a lot of experience and knows what he's doing and stuff, but was very happy being a worker. And
Yeah, yeah. My thing, one of my joys about working in animation, and my time working in animation is, and especially really working for this company, is that I have been able to kind of do a variety of things and try out a variety of things, but also, lead a couple things, but then support things, and I think both are healthy and both are valuable. And I think that as um it is really, comics is, I can sit here in this room and I can make a comic all by myself and never need anybody else other than someone to buy it or look at it once I put it out. Whereas making a TV show, whether it's animation or live action or whatever, it takes literally often hundreds of people, and that's part of the joy of the process, is all those different voices coming together and unifying to make this thing. And that, you know we have people that work on the show that maybe have never watched it, but that's what they do. They work on the show. And then you have people like me who have seen every episode multiple times. It's like I'm the nerd that wears, it's like, I wear all black, but if I wore an Archer shirt, I'm the nerd that I would wear the Archer shirt to work. It's like I wear the t-shirt of the band I'm in.
absolutely,
Yeah.
no question. So being someone that's been involved with animation for the last 10 years,
Yeah.
um, obviously there are more platforms now with streaming. It seems like there's more opportunities. Um, and again, with not only, again, with Archer and Hit Monkey and stuff, that
Mm.
there is room for edgy animation. And
Yeah.
that's great because, it used to be a kind of tight street with just South Park and whatever you could get away with on Simpsons and Family Guy and things like that.
Yeah.
But now with streaming, would you say that are we getting close to equating with Japan as far? I mean, I'm not looking for any tentacle sex in anytime soon, but
We did that though. If you there, we did a DVD extra with where Krieger. There's a little bit of hentai. So if you look up Krieger, I think Archer hentai or something, I don't know what it was actually called, but yeah, we did a whole. There's like a Voltron with a rocket dick. Yeah, so
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But does it seem like the
Yeah,
platforms are more receptive to more adult fare?
You know what? I don't have a huge POV on that. My limited view from what we're doing and what I'm seeing and all that stuff is COVID changed a lot of stuff, a lot of things, because one of the
Sure.
few um we were one of the few people still making things when everything shut down.
Yep.
So
Yep.
and I say we, I mean like
The industry.
yeah, the animation
The
industry.
animation industry, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure some companies took a hit. I don't know the optics on that, but I know that us and a bunch of other places, Bento, never really stopped. Stuff like that. We slowed down as we transferred to work from home, but really, there was never a pencils down, and even the comic book industry had pencils down for a lot of people.
Yes, they did.
So, and that was rough. And I think that a lot of, and this is just my opinion, I'm not speaking for the company or my bosses because I don't actually know, but I think a lot of companies really just went, oh shit, we need to have a way to keep generating content, and animation and specifically adult animation was a way to do that. So I think a lot of animation company heads phones were blowing up those first few weeks of pandemic, and yeah, and I think that that's what's changed going forward, is realizing that you can have this infrastructure that doesn't always require being in the same room should something happen, that can keep things going and still generate content. And that's really what it's about, is generating content for advertising dollars. And that's, so we like to think it's about story, and it is what it is about us as creative people. But so, so much of it is just keeping these machines going. And I love that there's so much more animation out there. There's so much more American animation out there too. Like all these production, making these things, Netflix greenlit so much stuff in the last 2 years. Same thing with, Hulu's done quite a bit, and then you have companies like, just from what I read in Deadline and all that, you have companies like Sony and that are heavy in the animation game, not just because of movies like Spider-Verse, but they're making full moves into other content. So
absolutely, man. No, and HBO Max is moving forward with.
How could I leave out that? Because they're huge. They've been huge over the last 5 years, and I feel like their content has only tripled over the last 2 years.
How fraternal beyond Floyd County is the animation business? Do you know people like? Do you know Pat Schumacher, who's the showrunner for Harley Quinn, or any of the?
I don't, but I feel like I mean, I could be speaking out of turn, but I feel like people like Neil Holman know some of those people. But it's all for me to know those people. I would kind of have to go out of my way to introduce myself to them, and I've done that with some people. But it's as far as like we're kind of an island unto ourselves out in Atlanta. Like we know the Atlanta animation community, because there's companies out here doing amazing stuff. Like like Bento Atlanta or Awesome Inc. or Radical, stuff like that. Wait, is Radical? I'm probably saying a company name wrong here, but somebody's going to chime in on the comments and correct me.
Yeah, but it's all right.
Yeah. So it's the Atlanta / East Coast community, I feel like, is a little bit more familiar with each other. And then the people I know out in LA are people that used to work for us. So, a bunch of people, in pre-pandemic moved out to LA for other opportunities, because again, with like Netflix hiring and Sony and stuff like that, there's people wanting to take advantage of that stuff. And I'm all for it. Please go make good shows. And same thing with Canada. I've know a bunch of people that have come and gone from working in, various spots in Canada because the animation industry, up there is huge, and so much of I say as in the American, but so much of American production does get outsourced to some degree to there. We keep everything as in-house as possible, so I can't really speak to using them, but yeah.
Understood. Yeah. Well, you're also keeping yourself busy, and we're going to talk about it in a second. Your music career is getting started with a new EP. We'll talk about that in a second on the other side of the break here on Word Balloon.
Every part of comics and artwork is a form of communication with other people. It's not just here, let me direct my thoughts at you as a dictation of concept, but it's hoping to convince you of how cool you think a visual could be or a story could be. And you're trying to communicate ideas, and in one part storytelling and greater part just graphic impact. You're hoping to relate a sense of energy, urgency, and enthusiasm to people. That there's a lightning of spirit that comes out of superheroes that has always worked for me. That it isn't really about the practicality of what they might do. It's not the practicality about grown men punching each other in costumes. It really isn't about that. It's a visual metaphor. And that metaphor could be for a lot of things, but it's mostly just about the energy and enthusiasm that can be found in the fun of life.
That Fantastic Four cover I had not seen before. Alex is so good. I need to meet him at some point. In all these years of going to shows, and especially going to Chicago and hanging out with you and the Chicago crew, I've never met him. So,
well, and it's sometimes it's tough. He doesn't like to come to conventions as much as he used to. Right. But yeah, he's a great guy.
And I've only heard wonderful things about him, and I mean, we follow each other on Twitter. I still have never met Sal. So yeah,
Sal's a riot, and Not that Alex is not funny.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Really fun in conversation, but Sal slays me because he's like an alderman, like one of our politicians.
Mm-hmm. And sorry, go ahead.
No, just funny street talker.
Well,
Really
and
good stuff.
something, because I remember when Atomica, am I saying that right? Is that the right way to say
Yeah,
it? When
yeah.
Atomica came out, I just remember seeing that and going like, what kind of acid is this guy doing? But that's just, it's his style, it's how he draws. And I mean that in the highest compliment, because he's
He would
doing,
take it as such. Absolutely.
yeah, he's like, and he posts his sketches now, and I'm just always like, dude, we need to get on your level. Where are you at? Like, as far as just kind of the way he's channeling things, it's this weird, trippy Bern Hogarthy kind of thing that I'm like, I don't like Bern Hogarth, but I like this.
Well, and his color choices.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
think,
Wild
plus
stuff.
his illustrative style is so unconventional to begin with, but also just these great kind of mosaic color choices that he makes. And he's got a new graphic novel in the works, and
I think I saw it in post. Maybe he posted something or whatever. But yeah, and it's something where he's doing something that so few. I mean, I'm going to make a blanket general statement that is probably not true at all, but like, so few people are drawing from that visceral place of emotion, I feel like, and he's tapping into something there that, it's like, I mentioned him earlier, but I feel like Mafu does that too. Like
absolutely.
It's like the lines, he doesn't make the lines have to exist. And so they're just exiting his body,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I'm with you on everything you said. Absolutely. And of course, Alex, regarding the Fantastic Four, he's got a new Fantastic Four book coming out from Abrams at some point
very
here
cool.
in the summer or in the fall.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
That's coming up this year. Yeah, that's going to be neat.
Well, I fully expect to tune in when you have him on to talk about it then.
I'm sure that'll happen. Absolutely. So, yeah, man. And now you've released an EP, or you're about to?
Yeah, no, it's out. It's out. It's on. Thank you for pulling that up. It's called "Songs from the Giant's Chair." It's a 5-song EP out on the cassette and digital are available from Haunted Birthday Records. So if you go to hauntedbirthday.com, and it's a buddy I actually used to work with on Archer. He decided to start his own little boutique label and just kind of put out limited runs of cassettes and vinyl of stuff that he liked. And I wrote these songs last year, recorded them, finessed them, and then went to Missouri to have my buddy Sam mix it. And we got it mastered there as well. And then I was getting ready to just put it out myself, with well, I guess I'm going to put this out, and I just happened to remember that, my buddy Seth runs a small label, and I'm like, oh, this will be awesome, because I wanted help, essentially. And I've learned over the last couple of years to really just start asking for help on this stuff. And I sent him the thing, and I was like, hey, are you interested in this at all? And he was like, yeah, he's like, vinyl is fucked right now, but let's do some cassettes. And I'm like, that's dope. I don't even own a cassette player.
Why is vinyl fucked? Because of the supply chain?
But also supply and demand. It was kind of a little bit of a wonky like place before pandemic, because there's so few places that cut vinyl now.
Sure.
Especially to meet the demands that have been rising over the last 10 years of collectors. I still collect vinyl. I never stopped.
At a point.
Yeah, I'm literally getting in records like every other week, and
wow.
I mean, like new stuff too. Like, it's like, it's like, yeah, it's like I'm getting Deftones. I'm also sitting there vinyl diving for Old Willie, like
sure.
Old Willie Nelson. So
I respect that.
But anyways, yeah. So, but it just more as at the level that I'm at, like I'm not going to command the type of thing to put into production vinyl and shell out the money to get that made right now. And he's a small label, so we had those conversations. He's like, but let's do some cassettes and, let's see how it goes. And which I'm super stoked on, because with digital, I love digital. I was a huge proponent of it when everybody was bitching about going to it back in the day. I'm like, no, I love this. You mean I don't have to carry a CD booklet around? But but also I love the object side of things. That's just which is why I wanted to vinyl. So I was really glad that Seth was like, was down to do that, so, and it's been neat, because like I don't even have them, because I told Seth to keep all of them and try to sell them, and then he can send me whatever we don't sell. So a buddy of mine ordered one at the studio, and it got in. I'm like, this is so cool just to hold, It also let me know that like designing things digitally, you're not always aware of how small some things are going to be. So like the type that I handed all the lettering on it, and I'm like, could have gone a couple points larger there, Kevin. You really, like the letterer in me needed a little bit of a lesson there, which is good. But it still looks great, and I'm in love with the fact that it came out like that, and I'm really proud of having these songs out because it is not my first album, but it's I am much definitely it is the best representation of me so far, you know, because I put out an album in 2016 after I'm sure you'll remember, and I won't belabor the audience with the story, but I had some tragic stuff happen where I almost died. You know, and then went through some health scares shortly after that, like some of it related to the accident and some of it not. And I made an album dealing with that, and it's, you know, and put that out. But it was also, I had never, you know, I'd messed around with singing and all that, but I had never sang really before. So I learned how to sing making that album. And then and that was 2016. And I've spent the years since learning how to sing better, you know, and learning other things, which is like learning how to sing better, like learning how to produce myself, learning how to write and play drums, you know, like taking it on myself to do all these things that I always relied on for other people.
Sure.
And I'm a very self-driven person to begin with. So pandemic only kind of like helped with that, in the sense that like I was already learning how to like play and program drums and all that. And all it did was I just burrowed into every time, like you know, it's like, this is where I worked. This space here that you're seeing is where I worked for the better part of 2 years. So when 6 o'clock hit, I'm grabbing a guitar and I'm ready to go, you know, and I'm just writing. And I wrote, you know, I mean, the camera doesn't really capture it, but there's like dozens of guitars. There's a dozen guitars in here.
Oh yeah, we see them. I'm zoomed in.
Oh yeah, and you can kind of see my you know, man, the electronic kit is fairly new, but cool. You know, and there's pedals all over the ground, cables all over the ground. It's a nightmare but it's you know, I basically spent a lot of 2020 just writing hours and hours worth of music. I think I wrote 3 hours worth of music total.
Wow. Are you using? Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I was going to ask, are you using GarageBand to? I mean, like you said, you're bringing it to your friend to mix, but yeah, how are you laying your initial? Track?
So I demo stuff on GarageBand all the time. I got an iPad, and I demo on the iPhone all the time, and I've got things that I can plug in and do guitar. So if I'm in the living room and I'm too lazy to walk 10 feet here, but I started working in. So the first album in 2016, A Girl, a Tree, a Dream, that was demoed. I wrote and demoed it all on GarageBand. Then went to Kansas City and had some friends play all the parts that weren't singing and guitar. So my buddy played bass, drums, like whatever. Whereas on this one, my goal was to do everything myself with this stuff. So it just took me, you know, a lot of songs that some of them I still like, some of them are not good, but you know, I had to write those hours worth of stuff to get to what you're hearing now.
Sure.
But yeah, and to answer your more direct question, I'm working in Logic, which means that I can demo something in GarageBand and then dump the file into Logic, and everything I did, it is the same. And then Logic is that much more powerful in that I can, you know, and I've messed around with, like, you know, as I don't know if, let's see if I can point the right direction here. I'm so bad at this, but back here you can kind of see, like, these are amps in the closet. So I do use a bunch of analog gear. I have a bass amp down here, tons of pedals down here, stuff like that. But also I got very into digital amping, you know, and doing stuff like plugging the guitar into the computer directly. So the album is very much a mix of a lot of that. But the one thing I really tried to do is just make sure everything sounded human and played and warm, you know, and it made it sound like there's some stuff that we did when Sam mixed it that added noise. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Because it sounds more warm and real to me, you know?
Understood. So. No. And again, as someone that through my radio career, half the career was in analog, half the career was in digital, and working in music radio and stuff. I definitely can relate.
Yeah,
I have the EP has 5 cuts on it, and I've loaded one for us to listen to a bit.
Yeah, please.
And now, is it ambient or is it ambient?
And just ambient, yeah.
It is ambient because you've got a capital T at the end.
Yeah, it's me being a little clever. So ambient and then parentheses T. So ambient. Right. Yeah.
Well, there you go. So here's a bit of ambient from Kevin Mellon's latest EP. Oh, I'm sorry, Kev. I had you singing on a bit of that clip as well, but
Oh, that's okay. I mean, no worries. They can,
but
they can go to YouTube, watch the video, and it's on Spotify, it's on iTunes. So yeah.
are you doing
No.
are you doing Bandcamp?
Yes. So if you go to hauntedbirthday.bandcamp.com, I think is what it is. Let me double check that before I lock myself into it. Hauntedbirthdayrecords.bandcamp.com, and you can buy the cassette, you can buy the digital on there. I do have a mellon.bandcamp.com, and that has my instrumental album Guitarscapes on it, and then it also has the first album. But because this one is through Haunted Birthday, I really wanted to kind of focus on keeping it there and directing people there. So hauntedbirthday.com, hauntedbirthdayrecords.bandcamp.com. So
Very cool, man. And
yeah.
I mean, you're my first Bandcamp person I've ever talked to.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And yeah, I mean, how is that? I mean, it has its own great online community, and people are discovering bands there. I love it. I think it's a fantastic platform.
I think the only thing I suffer from is not being active enough on it, and that's really just the kind of dilemma of social media. But I will say that the community there is great, and I think that ever since they've started doing during pandemic the Bandcamp Fridays, so I made sure we put this EP out on March 4th, which was a Bandcamp Friday, and then upcoming April 1st is another Bandcamp Friday. So I'm going to be promoting the heck out of it. So if you really want to make sure you're promoting artists, buying from them on those days is going to do the best, because Bandcamp waives their end of the fee. So you can get, you can support, like, this EP on Bandcamp is like $4. I have no idea how much it is on Apple Music if you're not subscribed. I have an Apple Music subscription, so my own stuff is free to me, so I don't know.
Sure. Sure.
And I really have only started looking at Spotify in order to be able to tell people where it's out on Spotify, so I don't know a whole lot about there. But yeah, I can say that I'm not to be one of those preachers for supporting artists, like not to be overly preachy, I should say, but Spotify doesn't really give a fuck about like paying the artists. They're the worst. I think of all these streaming platforms, they are the worst. And Apple Music is kind of the best, but they all pay really low. And so if you really want to support people, it's the same thing with comics. You buy direct.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what supports
Records. They have a website, I'm sure.
Yeah, hauntedbirthday.com.
And also, again, and I'm assuming obviously Bandcamp is a good place to go.
Yes, very much so. Haunted Birthday has a hauntedbirthdayrecords.bandcamp.com, and they've got a great boutique presence there in that it's vinyl tapes. There's artists from Spain. There's a King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. I think I said that name right. Messing up names all over the place today. But it's like they've got all these boutique releases, and it's stuff that Seth, the owner of Haunted Birthday, is passionate about, stuff that these artists are passionate about, and I feel very fortunate that he liked what I'm doing enough to include me in it with all those people. So,
Kevin, sounds great. Truly, I mean, we've got a newish radio station in Chicago, and I know radio. I remember what radio was.
Right.
I know children don't listen to radio anymore.
Yeah.
But it is kind of your music would fit there so perfectly, because it is that not quite metal, but definitely harder edged album rock.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's I think the EP, like, it's not a concept album or EP per se, but there is a through line, there is a theme. And sonically, I've heard everything all over the place. Like, I had somebody compare me to both acoustic Metallica and Incubus in the same sentence the other day, which I'm like, I don't see that, but I love it. And I've had people say that, it's like, I'm very directly influenced by stuff like Tool and The Perfect Circle, but also Pearl Jam and also Soundgarden.
Sure.
But then also, Sarah McLachlan, and Tori Amos. So there's all kinds, and Joni Mitchell, Joni Mitchell and Marvin Gaye, and not that stuff shows through directly, but all that stuff lives inside me, lives in my head rent free all the time. And I'm trying to explore my storytelling voice more, and this EP definitely is a part of that, where it's like, it definitely, for me, if you really if you do care to listen to the lyrics and hear what I'm saying, it does start in one place and end in another. And I'm working on new music right now that picks up there and carries through those ideas and those themes. And I'm excited about that just as much as I'm excited about getting people to listen to this stuff. So, and whether they listen to it and whether they hear what I'm saying or not, I'm just excited to have more people, more ears on it. And, because we do this in a vacuum, but we don't put it out not to get feedback,
Absolutely. Have you talked to Matt Rosenberg about because he certainly still lives in vinyl.
I haven't really. I mean, I follow him on Twitter, and I love his books. Like, I love his indie stuff, especially and he's doing some innovative promotional things, like that EP that he announced recently. I'm like, God damn, that's brilliant. He's doing such interesting stuff, and I think, it's something that me and like my buddies that like Jeremy Hahn, Dennis Hopeless, Kyle Strom spend a lot of time talking about, is just kind of trying to figure out these ways to promote our books and to promote ourselves and to do interesting things like that. And I think seeing what he's doing really kind of opens up those doors for the rest of us to go, oh, I don't have to do that, but I can do this, and it's a lateral move from that idea,
Yeah, no, I get it. And you're right. And Jeremy, obviously, he and I have been in conversation with what he's been doing lately. Yeah. Hopeless, I got to talk to him. I got to talk to him about this Youth 3 event that he's got going.
I know, and I don't even know about it. So you got to talk to him so I know about it. I talk to him every day, and I don't even know about it. So yeah, what the fuck, Dennis? No, but honestly, I'm excited for Dennis because he's got. I don't want to put the cart before the horse for him, but he's got a bunch of exciting creator-owned stuff that I am
wonderful,
as not just as his friend, but as a fan. I am super stoked for people to get to see this side of him. I love his superhero stuff. I think he does it well. I think he's one of the most compassionate superhero writers out there. You read his Spider-Woman and you can see that in spades. But his voice when he's working with an artist he's passionate about and doing a story that, again, writing a story and characters that he is loves it. I mean, it's unparalleled. Like, you don't really get much more exciting comics than that. So.
Do you have time to nudge some comic projects along?
Working on it. Dennis and I have been, slowly pushing the Sisyphean rock uphill on a thing for the last year. And hopefully we can, get some more movement on that soon. And then I can't talk about it because it's a lot of, like, if you talk about it, then it might go away. But I'm working on a couple of other things, both writing and drawing myself. But then the beauty of Twitter. A buddy I follow on Twitter tweeted something a couple weeks ago, and I was like, what is that? Can we do that? Is that a thing? So hopefully maybe in a year or two, like, I'll be sitting like saying this was the origin of this, so.
No, that's great. And truly, I admire and respect what you're doing with all the different projects you're doing between animation, comics, and music. And I don't know if you've heard me talk about this, but I always want to, like, throw it up there to keep me honest. And it really is coming soon in the next month or so. I'm working on a Monkeys audio documentary.
Oh, that's crazy cool.
And it's called "We Got Something to Say." And
that's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I had not heard about that. I must have missed that somehow.
We managed to get all four before Nesmith died, and really before all three of the currently deceased Monkeys. We got archival interviews exclusively with them, and a lot of great stuff with people that have worked with them, and also modern opinions of the evolution of their careers, from the TV show to them standing up for themselves and taking their musical destiny in their own hands. And I mean, I don't know how deep your monkey knowledge goes, but beyond the hits, when they did take over, it did.
John, you're killing me with this phrasing here. Phrasing all over the place. My monkey knowledge with the hits. Come on.
Well, I mean, everyone knows, the classic bubblegum stuff. But my point is that after they, the bubblegum audience didn't know what to make of the post bubblegum stuff. Well, and I think it's so much interesting music. And really, I'm glad. I don't know if you knew this, especially given that we're in Oscar season, but a couple of years ago, the movie Lady Bird was a big deal.
Yeah.
And Greta, damn it, I forget Greta's last name, but the filmmaker used a great song in the film and in the trailer. And everyone's like, wow, that's an amazing song. What is that? And she's Greta Gerwig. And she's like, oh, that's from Head, the Monkeys movie.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's the scene, if you've ever seen the movie, where they're on the snowy mountains.
I'll have to watch it though.
It's this beautiful ballad, and it's like does not sound like Last Train to Clarksville. It's a terrific song.
While my Monkeys knowledge aside from Hit Monkey is not super in depth, it's for me the story of them has always been interesting because I grew up with those VH1 Behind the Musics,
Sure.
So that Monkeys one is still like they were, especially because those Behind the Musics came largely after the boy band craze of the late 90s, early 2000s. So a lot of it is colored by them being like, I doubt they were the first, but one of the first big boy bands like manufactured like acts and stuff like that.
100%.
And I think that you owe, not you, but the royal you, we owe, the ability for people like, and I'm gonna, maybe I don't know if people are huge Bieber fans here in the word balloon world, but like people like Bieber owe their ability to pivot to things like the Monkeys paving the way, going through that. It's like in sync, like Justin Timberlake being able to break out and go do all these other things, he owes that to the Monkeys, like helping pave that way. And I think that to me is interesting, and you get these people who they get the benefit of their successes, but they also get the utter hell of it, and their stories I think are super interesting. And while I don't know the music super well, reading about them, watching those documentaries about them, stuff like that is always fascinating.
It's really a 50-year story, really going up to 2015 with their last full band releases of Good Times and their Christmas album that they did for Rhino of original. Well, in the case of Good Times, original stuff and Christmas songs. But they're a really interesting band and very, very cool from an artist standpoint. So yeah.
I think it's interesting because a lot of people don't realize. I'm trying to think of how to word this, but a lot of people don't realize how manufactured a lot of their music is, how manufactured a lot of these things are, and they don't realize that a lot of these people are employees of a company, and that company is the band. And to use an example that's closer to the stuff I listen to, like, there's this band, the Deftones, and their bassist just left. Well, he was let go, but like he revealed that he'd been under contract for 12 years. And a lot of people were shocked that he was just an employee because they like to think of bands as being these like fully creative endeavors. And then to me, it's like, it's parallel to comics. It's like, no, this is a fucking business. And sometimes the people that you love are just hired guns, and that's good and bad. It's not good or bad. It's neutral, because
it's the business. It's the music business.
Yeah. And it's like, I have friends who have worked on, Grammy award winning stuff as uncredited songwriters, because that's the business, and that's like there's people out there, they're singing these songs talking about how they wrote them and they didn't touch a lick of it, and that's how it goes.
No, and in fact, even contemporaries of the Monkees, like the Beach Boys and the Association and the Mamas and the Papas, were doing the exact same thing that the Monkees were in terms of the Wrecking Crew and other studio musicians actually playing the songs. But the music critics only picked on the Monkees.
Yeah, and
and it was
easy target.
Yeah.
But you had tons of solo acts in that time who were just as manufactured and just even more manufactured, to be honest. Because I don't know. Anyways.
So that's something I'm working on.
No, that's fantastic, John. I'm excited to hear that because I know like clearly it's a passion project of yours, but I also know that like making a documentary is super fucking hard because it's not like a movie where it's like, like movies are years of people's lives. This has probably been decades of your life because you're a fan. And so now you're investing time and I assume money and energy into telling someone else's story. And I don't know, that's awesome, man. I'm really excited about that. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, again, I believe in the podcast format.
Yeah.
And I love what I do with Word Balloon and have no intention of stopping. But as you were saying, and I appreciated it earlier before we started recording.
Yeah.
This week is a great example. It's like, no, I mean, yes, I'm going to talk to yourself and Mark Bernardin and Ronnie
who is amazing. I don't know this Barnes character, so I'll have to go listen to that episode. But Mark,
Ronnie's amazing. Ronnie's a really Bernardin too. They're both great comic book writers. They're also fantastic television and film writers.
Yeah,
and that's
Mark is Mark is a gem of a human being. I don't know him super well, but every time we talk or I interact with him online in any certain ways, I'm just like, you are just so authentic, and I really appreciate it. And I think it's needed right now.
No, I hear you, man, and I feel the same way about Rodney. Rodney's another great guy
Nice.
like
That's
that.
awesome. I
So, and
definitely will have to
again,
go back and listen to that one.
I'm glad about our own friendship over these years and
Well,
everything, and that
I was actually
it's
just thinking about that before we talked. I was thinking about how I was working at a liquor store in the mid 2000s when you started. What's 2005, 2006?
2005.
2005. I was very much working at a liquor store, and I was listening to you and Geek Speak, and and that was
Yeah,
kind of my lifeline. It was Dennis, and I was like, Dennis, I'm trying to remember where he was working at that point. I don't remember, but our lifeline to this world we wanted to be a part of, because Gearhead didn't come out until 2007. So we were just like adjacent, trying to make our way in and figuring out how to get people to talk to us and pay attention to us. So your show was just your show was the oasis in so many ways. Just, and also, I don't think I've ever had a conversation with Brian Bendis, but I have listened to hundreds of hours of him talk. So, it's one of those things where yeah. And I don't say that to butter you up. I mean, it's the genuine truth. I think that there's a lot that, it's very special for me to, when I do get the chance to talk to you like this, but also when we get to see each other in person, it's really nice to be able to be like, this is the person that kind of like was a gateway towards me getting into this industry to begin with. So
well,
really, I say all that to say, I blame you for everything, John.
hey man, that's high praise, and honestly, I appreciate that, and what I wanted to do with Word Balloon from the start. It's funny, we're talking about your music.
Yeah.
It was cues from Rolling Stone and the magazine Musician.
Yeah.
That really kind of informed the type of show that I wanted to do. And
Yeah, well, I mean, while we're a few years apart, like, I think that I know we've talked about Rolling Stone before, because my parents got me a lifetime subscription at a very young age. So
wow.
I have a lifetime subscription that, if I remember right, it runs out in 2075. So I think it expects me to be dead by then. So
I
we'll
was going to
see.
say,
Yeah,
I'll certainly be
which
either
will expire
110
first.
or dead. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
That
no,
seems reasonable.
I had forgotten about Musician, but Enemy, Spin, and then
Sure, Spin, absolutely.
playing guitar, all the guitar magazines,
Yes.
And it's one of those things where I don't think people will, maybe, I don't know if people understand, but like the years that Rolling Stone's been at a smaller size for like a decade or two, and they just went back to a larger size, and that made me so happy, because it mirrors the album size that the old issues used to be. Yeah.
Yes.
And this is the kind of nerd shit that I know, because I have a lifetime fucking subscription. So
That's fantastic. It's funny
Yeah.
you mentioned Spin. In my radio career, I got to interview Guccione Jr.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When
That's
he was
fantastic.
coming out with his men's magazine Gear.
Yeah. I remember Gear.
And I'm like, hey man, really excited for you for Gear, but I was such a Spin fan, and he couldn't have been nicer about it. And yeah, we had great conversations about some of the musicians he got to interview and stuff. And it's like, Bob Senior, of course, notorious for Penthouse.
Yeah.
But Junior did all right, man. Junior made some really great magazines back in the day.
I don't know a lot about him personally. I just know that like Spin had such an acerbic tone that I loved, because it wasn't the dry wit or the dry sarcasm of like Enemy or stuff like that. It was just this like, no, fuck it, we're gonna say the rude thing. We are not Rolling Stone,
Right.
And it's like I wasn't gonna read about Gigi Allen and Rolling Stone. I read about
That's
Gigi
exactly
Allen and
right.
Spin,
There you go.
Like, where else am I gonna read about a man who defecates on stage and like covers himself in it and then dives into the audience? Spin.
Gigi Allen, good lord.
Yeah.
Brings back disturbing memories. That's
the audience that listens to this, like, if anyone doesn't know who he is, Google at your own risk. Yeah. But
congrats, man.
Yeah,
Go
thank
ahead.
you.
What-
Well, and
what
thank
were
you for letting me come on and talk about the music stuff. I know you do a lot more kind of TV and comic stuff like that. I know most people know me as an artist, as a visual artist, and music is something I've been making since I was like 12. So to kind of be able to put stuff out like this is, and the few people that have listened to it so far really dig it and have been very kind about it. So I just really kind of would like to get people to listen, I'm fumbling over my words here, but I would like to get it to like kind of the widest audience I can. But I do feel like so many comic artists, so many comic listeners are very passionate about music. And there's so many of us artists who do make music, it's like, you're talking about Rosenberg, it's like there's Charles Soule, he's a musician,
Yes.
like there's so many people playing and making music. And I think it's a shame that we're not talking about it more. And I would really like to see more of us, quote unquote, us, like being like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's an old tradition too. Steranko had a band back in the day, and the Barnes and Barnes guys of the 80s, Billy Mummy and
okay. I didn't know about that one.
I forget Richard's last name, but Miguel Ferrer was in that band as well.
Oh, that's sweet. Okay.
Yes. So, I mean, no, comics and music have really been hand in hand for a really long time. So it's great to talk about that. And again, it pulls on my old radio ties back when I started in music radio. So I'm always happy to do it. That's great, man.
If I can just get you someone to have you back into radio just a little bit, say next up from Kevin Mellon, like
do my Casey Kasem. That's right.
On
Haunted Birthday Records. Make sure you check out Songs from the Giant's Chair from Kevin.
Oh man, I may have to get you to do this for something. Like if I can find a way to do a live stream, I'm going to come back at you.
Oh, please. I always love doing my Casey Kasem imitation. That's fantastic, man.
That's awesome. That's hilarious.
Let's not forget, man, he was Robin and Shaggy.
That's right. I always forget he was Robin. I always remember Shaggy, but yeah.
I would love to get a picture of him and Alan Sewell doing the voices of Batman and Robin for the Super Friends, because if you want, and again, it's going to force you to watch some black and white television, but
I'm all for that though.
Alan Sewell was the hotel manager on the Andy Griffith Show in Mayberry.
Okay, I think I know who that is.
The leader of the church choir.
Okay.
So that's Batman, and he's a man with a receding hairline and glasses, and he's your Cape Crusader. And then you got America Top 40, Casey Kasem,
as
amazing. Robin the Boy Wonder, and also, of course, Shaggy. So.
Man. I mean, not to belabor things more, but that has been one of the more interesting things about getting into animation, being in animation for so long, is just kind of like discovering like all those little bits of trivia and stuff like that, especially about like, stuff from like the 70s, and like I was born in the late 70s, but like, sure. Grew up in a lot of reruns. So finding out stuff about how those shows were made and all that. And I just super appreciate the history of the art form and the medium in that way.
No lie, Kev, this week I had never seen it before, and it had to have been made in the 80s because the guy was about died in the late 80s, and that's Dawes Butler, Huckleberry Hound, and a million other cartoon voices.
Yeah.
They have he and Stan Freberg did Time for Beanie, the puppet show in the 50s. That was a big television hit, but also June Foray is in there. Don Messick is in there because they were all Hanna-Barbera, veterans. And also it was so great to a couple of years ago interview Tim Matheson from Animal House and The West Wing and all these other great TV shows he's made over the years. Van Wilder's dad for a younger audience.
He's phenomenal. He's one of those underrated character actors that he's subtly been in everything over the years. And
for 50 years, for 60 years. I mean, going back to Johnny Quest, he was the original Johnny Quest. And
I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
Well, that's why I'm like, I want to hear. I'm like, I made it for like the first 15 minutes of our hour-long talk. I'm like, I want to hear everything about working at Hanna-Barbera when you were a teenager, man.
That's
and
amazing.
He's like, best training I ever got. Those guys were such pros.
Oh, that's amazing.
They were nice to me. I was this little kid and everything. No, he's I love Tim. Tim's a really, really cool guy.
That's awesome.
What an amazing career. Yeah.
He's one of those actors that I always enjoy just because he can do everything. He can play nice. He can play nice fatherly. He can play evil, like, boss guy, whatever. Like he's done it all. He can do. Yeah. That's fantastic.
He was from that Kurt Russell mold of starting off as a kid actor and then had a real long jag in Westerns in the 70s. And really, Animal House was kind of the, I could do comedy, and people didn't think he could, but he was part of the Groundlings, the LA Improv group.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
The founding members of the Groundlings and stuff with Lorraine Newman and people like that. Yeah, and then to come back to do straight up drama, and I mean, my God, his the vice president on The West Wing, among other great roles.
Yeah, that I mean
Ooh.
that role alone, like if he had stopped after that, but I mean I've watched him again I'm blanking on stuff. I know I've watched him in dozens of things since then, but the power that he commanded in that role was yeah something else. There's something in his eyes, like he's one of those guys, like he's just got something that he can convey stuff with a look, and yeah, that's so it's not. I mean, I'm going to make a bold statement. It's rare, that people can command that much weight with their eyes like that, but he does it, So
I'm with you, man.
Yeah.
Again, Songs from the Giant's Chair, Kevin Mellon. It's a great EP, and it is available to listen to, but we want you to buy it. So head over to Bandcamp and go to hauntedbirthdayrecords.bandcamp, and you'll be able to find the album there, the EP, I should say. And come on, $5. What are you kidding me?
It's $4.
Oh, is it $3.99? All right.
That's just $4. It's just straight $4. But that was something that was a discussion we had, was like, like I want people to buy it, but I want the barrier to entry to be low, and I know that they can go and stream it from other places for free.
Sure.
But it's one of those things where again, make it available. If you build it, they will come, that sort of thing. So yeah.
Hey, needle drop it on Spotify, but I have a feeling you'll want to buy it and have it on your MP3 player. So
and the nice thing about Bandcamp is they do, in the wake of all the attention on them over the last few months with all this debacles with Spotify and other stuff, is they've been very heavily upgrading their app to be more streaming and user friendly for people who do have libraries of Bandcamp music. So it is an option if you're more interested in supporting artists like that. It definitely, the player that works on iOS and the web app and all that are much improved, I would say. So.
Excellent. And again, hoping for another season of Hit Monkey to
fingers
come to
crossed
Hulu or another platform.
Everybody go watch all the episodes now, and hey, go watch all the Archer episodes. We're still making season 13. I don't know when it's going to be out, but get your bodies ready.
Are we going to see another format change, or is it
I can't speak on it, unfortunately. But I will say that people, I think if you liked last season, you'll continue to like this season. So
sounds great, man. Kevin Mellon, everybody, kicking ass in animation and music, and hopefully a return to comics sooner than later as well. So,
fingers crossed. Thank you, John.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your time.
Good hang time. Absolutely. Everybody, thank you for watching. We're going to do Kinescope tomorrow night. Gabe Harden, myself, Jeff Parker. Shower of Stars. It sounds promising. It sounds like it takes place in a men's room, but it doesn't. It's a weird comedy musical show that was an alternative, like back in the 40s and 50s, and Kevin will sit with me for a moment as I reminisce. The scheduling of TV was very weird, and even variety shows didn't necessarily have a weekly schedule, and the same goes for the anthology shows. And what they do is they do 3 weeks of hard drama on a show like Danger, which was a straight up action suspense show, and then the 4th week of the month they would switch to Shower of Stars, and they'd be these musical comedies. And we're going to look at 2 of them, one starring Jack Benny, and it's a dramatic role in a comedy musical. And then also one with, from I Love Lucy, Vivian Vance and William Frawley, and that's a baseball musical. And the other one's kind of a football musical. So it's very, very weird.
Okay.
But appropriately so. So I don't know if you're willing to stay up Friday night. It's going to be 12:30 a.m. Eastern, 11:30 Central, and of course 9:30 Pacific, because those guys are weenies and have to do it early enough so that they get their bedtime in.
That's one thing I laugh at every time you do one of those late shows with them. Is I'm like, really, you're making John stay up late?
I love it. I love it.
I know you do. It's just me. Like it's like if I had my druthers, I'd call up Parker or Gabe and be like, "What are you doing, John? Come on!"
Oh yeah, feel free to slap him around. Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Next week on Word Balloon Live, Ron Wimberly is going to do an afternoon show.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
And Alex Segura is going to check in with his brand new comic book related novel that has.
I'm excited to get that and read that one. It looks super intriguing. All the stuff he's posted on Twitter, I'm like this. I'm stoked for this. So.
There you go.
But also, Ron, like his latest Kickstarter that he just launched, at least I think it's still going. But yeah,
that's right.
I'm fascinated by how that dude's brain works and that he's able to make these things like this. And I'm gonna back it and get it just so I can work out the mechanics of how he made a 600-page foldable comic work. Like what?
It's gonna be a fun conversation. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
yep. Next week on Word Balloon Live. Until then, everybody, take care, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. Bye-bye, everybody.